Nowadays, most of us are consuming around 1 to 1.5 GB of data every day. So that is how the tech around us is growing, the economy is changing, and with rise of 5G, this 1 GB is likely to get to 5 GB per user per day. So this is the way the economy is growing and moving. There will be new services around us which would increase the data consumption. We are number one in digital payments volume. By volume, we are number one in the world. We are number three in startup ecosystem. Ours is the third largest startup ecosystem in the world. We are number three in terms of adding new unicorns to the economy. Unicorn, I'm sure all of you know unicorn. Do we have anyone who doesn't know what unicorn is? For information of everyone, a unicorn is a startup which has got valuation of 1 billion US dollars. It is billion. We are number two in social media users. We have got the largest user base as far as the social media is concerned. We have been IT capital of the world. We are number one in software services export. And last but not the least, we are number one in adding new engineering graduates as well. So these are the kind of statistics of our economy, the environment around us, which encourages you to become an entrepreneur. So what makes a successful entrepreneur? What does it take to be a successful entrepreneur? And do you have it in you? Let us think through. You are driven by passion. You have junoon to make a difference by adding value for customers and for your team. You are so passionate about making the startup successful to achieve some goal. You dream big. You have a bigger vision. You at times are daydreaming and then thinking for the future that I would make certain product, I will make certain service, and I would try to make a team and then make things in my startup. Are positive, thinking about future, dreaming big, visualizing a bigger picture of the future. You start small. While you dream big, you start small. You can break up the bigger problem into small ones, start with small step, and then keep on growing on that. You have a capability to build a team, inspire people to join you to achieve the common vision what you have shared with them. You always keep the customer delight. You know who is the customer for which you are building any product or service. You keep customer at the center of everything. You are having a tendency to build a product which can be sold in the market. You know well the product market fit. You understand the product, you understand the pain point of your customer, and that is where you are capable of developing a product or a service that is needed by customer. You are comfortable working alone. You are striving hard to achieve your goal. No matter what, be it Saturday or Sunday, you are continuously working on your goal, moving further, taking notes, reading various references, joining various conferences, various webinars, and then trying to keep yourself on top of the subject, what you are passionate about. You are continuously unlearning, learning, and relearning. You are student forever. Be it sales, marketing, finance, technology, you know everything. As an entrepreneur, you are willing to learn finance. That how do you make entries in balance sheet? If you are a sales person, you are willing to learn technology. Hey, can I learn Python? If you are a marketing professional, you are willing to learn technology and then understand all functions of the organization. You are not willing to limit yourself just to one specific function. You are willing to move ahead, learn, unlearn, and relearn. You prefer practical over theory. As you, as an entrepreneur, are passionate on building a working model which can be demonstrated to prospective customers. You are passionate to build something rather than being in world of theory. You are having a characteristics of adaptability. You can adapt as you progress, include learnings, and then accept mistakes and then make the solution work further. You do not think about the problem, but you think about the solution. You have discipline. You are a self disciplined person. If you decide to wake up at 5 o'clock, you would make it happen. If you have to start your work for your startup at 7 o'clock, you will make sure you will turn up, come what may, be it rain, be it winter, any season, you would be there on time. You are disciplined in doing what you know needs to be done, even if you don't want to do it. You are consistent in your approach. Integrity. You are always ethical. You are always doing the right thing even when no one is watching. You are ambitious. You want to achieve something for yourself. You want to create a shared vision and value for yourself, for your team, and then make your life better, your customers' life better, and your team's life better. You are focused. You have a clear sense of purpose. You want to build something. If you have selected, I want to build something in certain area, you do your due diligence and arrive at certain directions. Once you achieve that direction, you would remain focused on that specific target with a clear sense of purpose. You are persistent. Failures can cope with persistence. So once you are having a strong sense of persistence, you will move further. You are a researcher by nature. While you are working on building something, you continue to learn new things. You are curious. You have subscribed lot many newsletters to understand what is happening in various parts of the world. You are knowing who are the top 10 people of your industry domain. What are they doing? What are the latest thing they are up to? What are sorry? What are the latest news in your industry domain? And you are curious to acquire new knowledge and ready to apply that knowledge. You are a clear communicator. You are honest and clear in communicating. You don't fear, calling a speed a speed. You clearly know what to be communicated. You ask questions you to get the right answers. You are self motivated and you also inspire people around you to remain motivated. You have a growth mindset. You challenge the status quo and strive to move further. You are willing to move further. Failure doesn't stop you. You fail and but you move further. As they say, fail fast, fail forward and move forward. So that is what you are willing to do. You value time, yours and others, because you have got lot many things on your schedule. You follow a calendar. You try to avoid wastage of time. You straight away at times you do not indulge into loose talks. You would avoid wasting time on topics which are not of your interest. You would follow a calendar. Entrepreneurs follow a calendar and then try to manage their time efficient in an efficient manner. Networking, you like to meet people, you like to interact with them, you try to follow them, you try to introduce yourself, and that is where you are a social animal. You like to network with people. You know who are the people who are working in your industry domain in some other country. You are willing to network with them. You try to communicate with them over various social media platforms. So, your network is your net worth. You meet various people, various entrepreneurs, people from academia, people from startup ecosystem, people who are doing postgraduate in different universities, and you have a fair idea of the entire ecosystem. You are ready to take on. You are ready to take on with confidence. You are ethical, honest, and play the game as per the rule. You challenge status quo. Try to add value, make things better rather than saying accepting that ये ऐसा ही चलेगा. You try to improve. There are lot many cases how the startup started, right? Be it the start of Uber or be it start of Ola or Book My Show, where every entrepreneur had some challenge. They challenge the challenge and then they change the status quo and improve the situation, improve the scenario for the betterment of the customer, betterment of their own business. You are tech savvy, you are a geek, you are using technology as an enabler to solve problems. You are also tech savvy, be it Uber, Lyft, or any other gadgets. Your life is around technology. You do not get bogged down by failures. You treat fail as first attempt in learning and take feedback as a failure as a feedback. You are anxious. You continuously keep thinking and moving ahead. You do not want to work on your idea. Your passion is such, your anxiety is such that your entrepreneurship doesn't come twice in a week. You are continuously working to achieve your goal. You have a vision that by the time I finish my graduation, I would like to start a startup on blockchain. Within blockchain, what should I do? Which are the startup? How the market is moving? What kind of startup should I create? You would be studying and then meeting people, understanding learnings from their journey, and then arriving at certain area. And then that is how you would be preparing yourself and gearing up. You are a team player with people skills. You know what sort of team you need to build in. You understand what are your strong areas, what are your shortfalls. Let's say if you are good in building the tech, you know you can build the tech, but selling is not your forte. So you would like to onboard someone who is good in selling. If you are good in selling and have a great product idea, but you do not know how to build that product, you will try to onboard a team member who would help you overcome the shortfall. You are Mr. Cool. You know how to manage the risk and chaos. As you could see that one of the plane has taken a different direction. You know what to be done, how to manage such risk and chaos. You plan proactively. You remain cool even in toughest situation. You do not lose your temper. You take the credit of the failure and then move further. You are a person for compliance. You follow laws of the land, be it tax, be it licensing, be it any other compliances. You are always for compliance. You believe in empowering people around you. You are not self centric. You teach people and then help them help you. You work with a mentor and learn new things and try to achieve your goals with help of mentor. You are willing to embrace change for progress. So once an entrepreneur is entrepreneur for life. Here is a path fi.co/DNA. I would request the host team to type in this path in the chat box for information for everyone. You can visit this link and check your entrepreneurship DNA. This psychometric test would help you understand what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, and by reading the report, by reading the result of the test, you will be able to understand that how can you overcome your weaknesses and then make it as your strength. Convert your weakness as your strength. And this is the last slide. Thank you so much. I would be happy to connect and collaborate with you all. I'll be happy to connect with you on LinkedIn. My LinkedIn handle is Chintan Oza, CHITN OZA. With this, I end my presentation and we can get into a Q&A session.
Yes,
So if we can just take some Q&A.
yeah.
Definitely.
Guys, you can just
If
post
anybody
your
has any
question in chat box.
It was really a very insightful session, sir.
Thank you so much.
So I request the participants, if you have any questions, you all can just post it in the chat box.
So with my session, I have defined the persona of an ideal entrepreneur. You understand what entrepreneurs look like. How do they work? How do they one of the entrepreneurs?
So I personally have a question.
Go ahead.
If we have an idea and it's been executed already, but at small scale, but that person is ahead of us and we want to implement it, we think that it's better and we can implement it on large scale. So at that time, what should we do if someone else?
Yes, so you need to identify that what is your unique value proposition, right? If let us say if there is a cab hailing service,
Hmm.
it's a Uber, then still people have made other services and then they are succeeded, they are surviving and thriving in the market because they have got some unique value proposition, correct? If Amazon is in the market, that does not mean that you should not launch any e-commerce business. You can always do that. However, my advice to you is before you move to the next step, it is good that you have an eye on your competitor. You try to identify that how they are progressing and what value add you can bring in. Otherwise, you would remain one more player in the market. Let me give you one example. In terms of digital wallet, MobiQuick was the early entrant, but they could not encash their the early entry in the market. Paytm came almost 2 years later, but Paytm became Paytm what they are right now. Right?
I got that.
So these are the ways, right? So don't get bogged down if someone has got some service. On this planet, you do not have a single living human who has got a unique idea which has not been implemented by anyone else or thought ever by on this planet, right? You may be thinking of doing something that could have been done by someone else already. But what is the value add you would bring in? What is your niche? What is the need of the market, right? At times, we see that what works in US market does not work in Indian market. So you need to, at times, you need to Indianize the idea as well. You need to Indianize your product and service.
Yeah.
Right.
There is a
I guess
question
there is
from
yeah,
Andrea.
chat window.
Yeah.
If entrepreneur faces a roadblock in his or her project, how should they handle the situation, be it financial or technical?
Sorry, come again. Read the question once again.
So if anyone faces a problem financially or technically, how should they face it or handle the situation at that time?
So, entrepreneur always has a plan B. Entrepreneur never gets bogged down by such kind of situation. At times, it may happen so, right? That one of the programmer, one of the coder in the team is not well. He has got some social function to attend, but that does not mean that the launch date gets changed. Forget the development phase. When you are in operational phase, if your startup is serving customers, it doesn't happen कि यार हमारे पास फ्लावर वाज आ जाएगा तो तुम्हें शिप कर ही देंगे ना, एक बार शिप कर देंगे तो तुम्हें एक वीक में मिल ही जाएगा ना, क्यों चिंता करता है? Entrepreneurs does not work on best effort basis, right? They always have a plan B to make sure that they achieve their desired targets, be it technical or be it financial. Let me give you example. Some investor promise you to give 10 lakh rupees, but eventually they changed their mind and they said, now I will not invest 10 lakh rupees, but I am willing to give you 3 lakh rupees. So what would be your plan of action? Your plan of action is, though this guy is planning to give me 10 lakh rupees, but I will not depend on this single person. He may back off at the last moment. What would I do? You will continuously have your plan B. That if not Mr. Patil, then who is the next guy? My startup, and then you would maintain the momentum. Does that answer your question? Can you ask the user who is the person who has raised the question query? Nandita.
Yes, it was
Nandita.
Nandita.
Yeah, Nandita. Does it answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Okay, sir. Shruti has a question. Can you list out few necessary skills an entrepreneur should have while planning their business?
So there are multiple things. If you are a technology person, then you need to gain knowledge for finance, how a business works. You need to understand what is the aspect or how a business model is drafted. If you are into technology, then you need to learn what are the nuances of digital marketing, how to sell a product or service you have built, right? So these are the things which goes into building a business. After you have sold a product or service, you also need to offer after sales services, wherein you need to learn how to engage a customer, how to solve his pain points. So, does it answer your question?
Shruti. Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
She has Did a yes in the chat box.
All right.
Okay. Anyone else?
I just have one query. So if we have an idea and we don't have investors for it, and we are planning it for like a large scale, like take a locality like Nerul Vashi. We are planning it for that, but we don't have investors. Do you have any like how can we approach them, or how can we what we say know who are the investors in that field who are interested in that field, because we
So
don't
there are
have
various.
contacts. So
So it seems you are struck with the keyword large scale, right? Anything does not get large scale when they get launched. You first start small and then grow to scale, correct? Once you start small and show results, at that point of time, investors will be happy to invest into. You're able to demonstrate that you have 1,000 customers and you are operating at a decent profit, then investor would like to invest into. How to find investors? Investors are engaging with various student communities, engaging in various hackathons. They are engaging with various accelerators and incubators, and these are the places where you get to meet various investors. Investors do not wear a cap and say, "I am an investor." Government grants. So while you engage with various incubators, you are also eligible to get certain grants. So you can check with them as well that what sort of grant are available with that incubator. But always start small, show results, then say large scale.
Yes. So, Vishal has a question. What are the challenges to overcome at the beginning of the journey?
So at the beginning of the journey, the challenges and risk are high. You need to remain focused. You need to build momentum by getting on the right people around you, and then plan. First thing is to have a plan. Once you have a plan, then you can work accordingly. Break up the plan in achievable targets. Let us say designing a logo for your startup. Decide a date that by 28th of February, I will make a logo and I will complete that part and then work towards it. So try to make a project schedule and work on it with passion and commitment, right?
I guess Vishal.
You can review your project plan maybe once in a month and then update the target dates. But every day you should not be updating your project plan, right? You should work hard to achieve your target dates, correct? This is where I mean I am leading accelerators, various accelerators in multiple cities. I have led the accelerator in Mumbai, and then accelerators put you in a time box environment, and that is where if we are to decide your revenue model, then we would share best practices with you, and then we will give you assignment to make sure that you are working on the revenue model and your revenue model is up to the mark, and then an investor can look into your revenue model. So this is where various accelerators can help you and build your startup to scale in a time bound fashion. Next question, please.
Yes. So, Suraj wants to know an incident in your entrepreneurship journey that has taught you a big lesson about entrepreneurship.
The biggest lesson for me was to remain focused. And that is where my learning is. I follow calendar. In whatever is there in my calendar, I will do. And I'll put things in my calendar which will be related to my objective. If I can manage my time better, I can work on my goal. And if I can work on my goal, then I can achieve my goal. Right? So self-discipline, something which is a basic character, and usage of time, including I mean, I'll tell you, I am also human. I am not a Superman. I was investing more and more time in WhatsApp. Eventually, I discovered that WhatsApp is not something that is, I mean, it is, I should be spending time on. Then I decided that I would not open WhatsApp until I have 50 unread messages. So I used to look at the screen and then I will not click on the WhatsApp icon unless I have got that notification of 51 messages at least. I will wait and I will get back to my work. Eventually, as a next step, I increase that count to 99. Unless it is 99 messages, I will not look at it. Certain apps, I reduced my time consumption. I decided that, okay, fine, when I am returning from my office, I will look at Twitter. Until then, I will not look at Twitter. So that I started measuring and reducing my time on social media. I became an avid internet surfer. Then eventually I decided, what is it that I'm supposed to do? Am I investing my time in right direction? So this is what you all can also exercise. I'm sure, including my son, everyone likes Instagram. But then, how many times you are using Instagram? What sort of aimless surfing you are doing? You must realize. The moment you realize, you'll be able to save some time. All of us have got 24 hours for one day, and that's where we all need to learn, right? Am I answering your question?
Yes, sir. Definitely. Yes, sir. Vishal is asking, knowing what you know now, is there anything you would have done differently when you were starting at the first stage?
Oh, yes, definitely. A mentor helps you to remain focused. They guide you, and then you can share. A mentor to work with a mentor is better than to work with an astrologer. All right. Believe in what your mentor says than believing in your astrologer says. I'm not commenting with all due respect, but all I'm trying to say is a mentor is a person who can predict your future in a better way than an astrologer. Try to seek advice, have a mentor, and then understand that what are the shortfalls, how you should be moving further. Take benefit of his network. The mentor will help you to connect with the right people to get you the right knowledge. So yes, it would have made a bigger difference if I had a mentor since early days of my career.
I guess no more questions now. Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir. I'm sure your session has ignited a spark of entrepreneurship in our participants. I would now like to present a small token of appreciation on behalf of our entire team for this knowledging power pouring in to
My
us.
pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Can you just display the momentum or
It is displayed, ma'am.
go to slide show? Yeah, it is. It is. Thank you so much, Chintan sir.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Okay, sir. With this, let's take a pause here.
And I'm sure you all need a nice little break. I request all of you to join back by 1:50 p.m. for more fun and informative session. Have a great lunch. See you all. See you all.
Thank you so much. Have a great day ahead. Bye bye.
Thank you,
If we
sir.
can just
Thank you,
announce
sir.
which speaker and which topic is there, maybe in the chat, or if you people can announce.
Okay, so we have a session on green waste to market utilization by Mr. Vidyut Mohan. Next up, we have automation vehicles and their future by Dr. Umair Zakir. And then the technical contest was held, so it will be done by our volunteers. And lastly, we'll conclude with a vote of thanks by Miss Anjali Mishra.
See you all after the lunch break.
Yes.
At 2.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you everyone for joining back. We'll be starting in another 5 minutes. We are glad to have you all back here on the first day of IBSSC 22. We learned a lot today about metaverse, career opportunities, and entrepreneurship. Let us take a completely different route and go from virtual to real world. For our next session, Green Waste to Market Utilization, we have with us Mr. Vidyut Mohan, who is the founder and CEO of Takachar, which helps farmers in converting farm residues into value and added chemicals. I now hand over the stage to Mr. Vidyut. Sir?
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me to this IEEE Congress, and it's an honor for me to present to you today. I would love to take this opportunity to introduce a bit about our work and how we approach utilizing green waste and what kind of green waste we use, and then we can have a Q&A session if that's okay. Can I share my screen?
Yes, sir, you can share. I made you the present.
Okay. I hope everyone is able to see the presentation.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Okay. So today I'm going to just throw a brief light on how through our company, which is Takachar, we utilize green waste in the form of agricultural and forest residues to increase farmer incomes while also at the same time prevent carbon emissions. So just to tell a brief story. So I met Deepa Devi a few years back in 2014 in a village in Uttarakhand in Pithoragarh district. And in her village, there was no source of livelihood opportunities. So agriculture does not fetch a lot of income because land holdings are small. And there's no industry around. So essentially there's no livelihood opportunities there locally there. And the only source of income for Deepa's family was to do daily wage labor, for which they had to walk 5-6 kilometers on foot, and often that was not available. Also, at the same time, there are these huge pine forests next to Deepa's village, which shed these pine needles down to the forest floor every summer. And that's a big problem because those are highly inflammable. And these leaves of the pine forest called pine needles, they catch fire very easily and fuel huge forest fires and just get burnt up, not only destroying the local biodiversity, but also at the same time create a lot of smoke emissions and settle onto glaciers and accelerate their melting, same time threaten the village life locally. However, we learned that this agricultural waste is a resource, right? This is a resource that is being burnt up, and worldwide, close to about $120 billion per year of crop and forest residues, such as rice straws, pine needles, sugarcane trash, coconut shells, etc., are just burnt in the open like this, which otherwise could have been used to create value for rural communities. And often they contribute to heavy smoke and pollution problems in these areas, including you might be familiar with smog problems in northern India caused due to agricultural waste burning. So this is a photo of Delhi that we took in 2020, right after the rice straw burning season. And as you can see, it contributes significantly to the deterioration of air quality in these areas. So what if there is a solution for farmers and rural communities to get rid of their crop and forest residues quickly without additional costs, at the same time bringing extra income, and at the same time preventing harmful smoke emissions? So there are solutions around, right, that do that. The crop and forest waste in the form of rice straws, rice husks, sugarcane trash, pine needles. For many decades, there's technology that has existed to make solid fuels, therefore renewable energy, liquid biofuels, fertilizers, plastic additives, and even activated chemicals. But this industry is not scaling for some reason. And the answer lies in the nature of this waste itself. It is very loose, wet, and bulky, thus making it very expensive to transport and process over long distances in large-scale centralized units. And many of these technologies that have existed for this long period of time have been very large-scale, centralized, capital-intensive units. And the main problem with these set of technologies is that they're out of the reach of small rural entrepreneurs because they require very high upfront investment. It's also very difficult to obtain loans for these technologies because it's high capital plus, risky new renewable energy. It's not very easily funded. It's also very costly to transport a lot of this waste over long distances to meet the raw material requirements of this plant, as I talked about. It also takes very long time to commission and set up. And most importantly, the farmer does not benefit from the value creation. process. It's probably a very large and wealthy industrialist with deep pockets who benefits. And many times, many of these plants can handle a very limited number of feedstock in the form of agriculture and forest waste. So at Takachar, we wanted to make this vision a reality where farmers are able to benefit and add value in their areas itself, in their villages itself. So we developed small scale, low cost, portable equipment that can be latched behind tractors and taken directly to farms and forests to process loose, bulky, and wet crop and forest residue into an upgraded, dense, carbon rich feedstock, which can be used to make valuable products like fuels, fertilizers, or activated carbon. But at the same time, this dense feedstock is much more of a transportable commodity because it's highly compact and can reduce logistics costs by up to 75%. So we have 3 pending patents on this technology that we have developed and also published in leading journals. Telling a bit more about what process this technology uses to convert that loose, bulky, and wet biomass into this black colored carbon-rich material, which is dense. It uses a process known as torrefaction, which is a very simple word for roasting in controlled amounts of air. And it has its roots derived in France for the roasting of coffee beans. So we roast agriculture and forest waste instead of coffee beans essentially in controlled amounts of air. And the equipment simply involves feeding in agricultural waste where it undergoes this torrefaction process in controlled amounts of air and in controlled amount of time. And then it gets conveyed out and then it gets packaged, ready to be sold. So till now, we started with a lab prototype, a very small lab prototype of 2 kgs per hour, where we kind of validated the initial process in that small unit. And we scaled it up slowly in multiples of 10. So we then scaled that up to 20 kgs per hour, as you see on the right. And as we scaled up, we encountered new problems in the design. We tried to address that earlier in that scale itself, so that doesn't become a problem as we scale further. And now finally, we have a commercial scale version of 100 kg per hour processing capability. This is still a prototype. This is an alpha prototype that we built. And this is in the field, as you can see on a farm. And this is our latest version that we're testing out currently with various kinds of agricultural waste like rice straws, coconut shells, and rice husks. Our studies also show that as compared to open burning of agricultural waste, our technology can reduce the smoke emissions by up to 95%. As you can see, so the image on the left is kind of how the smoke emissions would look like if you just burn the agricultural waste like in the open. And on the right, it would look how it would be in our technology. We've tested with various kinds of crop residues. Till now, we've tested with rice husks, coconut shells, rice straws, pine needles, almond shells, walnut shells, and even wood chips. Now, since day one, we felt that it's very important to make the design simple, easy to operate, and repair in remote rural areas. So our technology does not require any heated special gases for heat transfer like nitrogen. It operates at room temperature air. It does not require any complicated scrubbing equipment. It is small scale in nature, and as a result, it is significantly low cost, up to 100 times lower in cost as compared to many other similar units available with other technologies. It can take in a wide variety of agricultural waste and forest waste, as I talked about. And also the quality of the output carbon produced can be tuned as per the end application, be it fuels, fertilizers, or activated carbon or something else. So our product development approach is something that we learned a lot about during this entire journey. We learned that hardware technology, of course, takes a lot of time and resources to develop. And all of that hard work can go to waste if you ultimately realize that no one is there to buy the product that you're building. So we learned that it is very important to work backwards from the need of of the customer and then develop the technology. So we spent just 1 year not doing any technical work, trying to understand the user, their pain points, the scale of the problem, and then developing functional requirements. And then we use that to start developing prototypes and testing the machine out. We also realized that it's very important to involve manufacturing inputs right in the beginning stages of design, because if you make something and design something and then you go to a manufacturer and they said it cannot be made this way, then that is a very costly mistake, which is going to cost you more money later down the line. So you have to work with the manufacturer to see what is manufacturable, how to reduce the manufacturing cost, how to reduce the assembly costs, how to reduce the number of parts in the machine, how to reduce the assembly time. So all of these things are really important to be involved in the beginning stages of design. We also learned that it's very important to know your niche as to what your expertise in design is and concentrate on designing that and don't try to reinvent the wheel. And everywhere else, try to use standard available components available in the market, because that's a problem that has already been solved by the industry and you don't have to design and reinvent that. It was also a big learning for us that product teams should not have only engineers, right? So it's very important to have interdisciplinary product teams. So you should have engineers, you should have designers, and even business people in your team to come up with the best product offering. So biomass, coming a bit to on the application and the market side. So biomass and its uses are diverse, right? So Takachar's, so we provide the technology for accessing various bioproduct markets, be it activated carbon, solid fuels, fertilizers, or other specialty carbon-based chemicals. And what we envision is that our equipment is operated by entrepreneurs in villages who collect and gather agricultural waste from farmers nearby and pay them for that. They process this waste into this carbon-rich material, and then we connect these entrepreneurs to various carbon markets locally as well as worldwide, be it to fuels, fertilizers, or activated carbon, who buy this raw material off from these entrepreneurs in villages. Now, talking about a specific application that we are working on, one particular application. So, fertilizers, as you know, farmers in Asia and Africa pay 2 to 3 times the price of world fertilizers just because a lot of the fertilizers are not made in these countries and they have to be imported. And in the case of India specifically, the government heavily subsidizes the fertilizers. So it's not the farmers that bears the cost. Additionally, it's the government that bears the cost. But still, it's a cost borne by someone. And a lot of the fertilizer production today is incompatible with rural farming. It is very large scale, centralized, logistically complex, and one size fits all. That leads to many rural challenges, such as the fertilizers being expensive for farmers or not being available at the right time that the farmer needs. For example, in many places in Punjab and Haryana, I mean, they're facing a fertilizer shortage today, and they don't get the fertilizers nearby in their villages at the right time that they need. As a result, they have to go far away to get those fertilizers, and they are dependent on many of these private vendors when they go there, and they have to deal with problems like, along with fertilizer, they have to buy many other chemicals like pesticides even if they want it or not. So there are these challenges with expense as well as distribution and supply chain. The fertilizers are not customizable according to the crop grown and soil condition, and this has often led to soil degradation. And as a result, eventually it can lead to food insecurity. So our vision is to use technology to decentralize and downsize fertilizer production process to make it feasible to implement local fertilizer production in villages itself. So what does this look like? It looks like collection of the local agricultural waste from farmers in the villages. So it can be anything. It can be rice straw, rice husk, sugarcane trash, and then undergoing this torrefaction process to produce this carbon-rich material. This is then mixed with locally available nutrients in the village, right? So the carbon-rich material is an excellent soil amendment tool. It helps in retaining moisture in the soil. It helps in retaining the nutrients longer in the soil. If the soil is highly acidic and degraded, it helps in adjusting the pH of the soil, and it also boosts microbial activity in the soil. And but at the same time, it acts as a holding material to add nutrients onto it and make a complete fertilizer product. And based on the locally available nutrients, this carbon rich material is mixed with that to produce a complete fertilizer product in the village itself using locally available crop waste, and then sold to farmers in the village itself, creating circular economy. So yeah, this is essentially the model that I talked about, where farmers, smallholder farmers, supply their residues to mini plant operator, who then produces this fertilizer product, and then sells it to smallholder farmers locally in the village itself, either directly or through distributors or local village agrovets, from which farmers are already used to buying fertilizers, seeds, or pesticides. And we have done a pilot in Kenya till now, where we've currently selling the fertilizer product to 5,300 farmers. And we have seen that at the same price that the farmers pay for the fertilizer inputs per season per hectare, the yields increased on average by 27%. And thus we were also able to increase the net income by up to 50%. And based on this experience, we have recently started a pilot in Haryana that utilizes rice straw that is openly burnt by farmers in this region, and that causes a lot of smoke issues in northern India to produce fertilizers for the rice crop itself. So this is a photo of our actual pilot site where we were collecting rice straws, and our machine will be deployed there in March for trials. So our actual impact till now with the fertilizer project has been that we've been able to work with 5,300 farmers, and we've also created about $800,000 of added rural livelihood and recycled about 9,000 tons of agricultural and forest waste. And most importantly, we've sequestered 11,000 tons of carbon dioxide equivalent emissions. Now, this is really important. So with this fertilizer product, we are actually taking carbon, a part of the carbon that was there in the plant, in the crop, that would have otherwise gone to the atmosphere. We are taking that carbon and burying it in the soil. So we are actually sequestering carbon in the soil, or in effect, taking out carbon from the atmosphere and burying it in the soil indirectly. Now, this is being done by farmers themselves, right? They are sequestering carbon by applying that fertilizer. And our vision is to connect these farmers who are sequestering carbon in the soil to carbon markets worldwide, so that they're able to earn extra income for the carbon credits that many large corporations in the voluntary carbon market are currently very aggressively trying to pursue because of various net zero commitments that various governments and corporations have committed by 2030 or 2040 or 2050. So these farmers then stand to benefit for extra income or revenue for them through these carbon credit payments for carbon removal, which fetches a more price, which fetches a higher price than carbon credits for just carbon emission mitigation or prevention. So at the last, right now I talked about our one application, which is fertilizers, but we are looking into a variety of other applications as well. For example, in southern India, we're working with coconut farmers and the activated carbon industry, where activated carbon, as you would know, is used as a purification material in our air purifiers and water purifiers at home. And we are exploring a pilot with Birla Cement on how this carbon-rich material from mustard husks can be used to replace coke in their cement production process. So we are looking to serve various biomass generators and consumers worldwide with the hope to mitigate 1 billion tons of carbon dioxide equivalent emissions by 2030. Until now, we've received a lot of support through the Department of Science and Technology, through the Nidhi Prayas program, from the Department of Biotechnology, through the big award. Similarly, from the Ministry of Agriculture, but also other agencies such as the Earthshot Prize, which we received in 2021, and also World Food Program, with whom partnership we're doing the rice straw pilot in Northern India, and also the UN Environment Program, through which we got the Young Champions of the Earth Award. So thank you so much for listening in, and I would love to answer some questions if there are any.
Thank you, sir. Your session was very informative, and our team is already receiving positive feedbacks. So, if anyone has any questions, then please drop them into chat box. We have a question. So he wanted to know that was there any specific idea you had that drove you to start the Kachar?
So I think in the beginning, this started as both me and my co-founders, masters and PhD thesis respectively, and initially it was, for me at least, an academic exercise as part of my master thesis, where I was exploring why, despite being such a large potential, why biomass utilization in the form of agricultural and forest waste was not scaling, and what does that mean in terms of technology development, and and use those inputs to come up with technology that can help scale that. So for that, we were doing a lot of field visits in India, and as I spoke about Deepa Devi's story in Uttarakhand, we happened to visit during that field visit to that area, and there we kind of had the chance to do a pilot there, or just to test how much test our ideas out, right? As to test our hypothesis out as to what kind of technology might lead to scaling of biomass utilization. And while doing the pilot, we saw this really strong impact of local creating self-sufficient rural economies using locally available resources. And the biggest locally available resource in rural areas is agricultural waste, right? There's no other bigger resource in rural areas to use. And so we saw that as a very strong outcome, because during the pilot, the community there managed to almost double their income for the month for which we did the pilot. So that was a very strong realization. But at the same time, we were able to prevent a lot of carbon emissions and smoke emissions by utilizing that waste productively. So that was a turning point for us to kind of not let our thesis lie in the shells, but kind of make a practical application of it.
Thank you. That was actually a very good answer to, that was actually a very good use to making your project or your thesis deliver useful results. And our next question is from Atul Jha, who is asking, and how you started scaling it up in the initial stage.
So in the initial stage, our focus was not on scaling up. In the initial stage, our focus was only on understanding if there was a need for this kind of a technology and product, and who our user is and who our customer is. So we spent a lot of time doing that. And after a year of that exercise, only then we started working on developing the technology and slowly scaling it up, keeping the user and end user in mind and getting feedback from them in an iterative fashion. So we didn't scale it up initially, and because as I also highlighted earlier, hardware technology takes time and resources to develop. So we need to know beforehand what is the use case for this machine, and then develop the functional requirements, and then gather resources to start developing the hardware. and start testing it out and start doing R&D. So that's how our approach was in the beginning. It was, we tried to be as user centric as much as possible.
I'm sorry. So there are two questions, and both of these are similar, so I'll combine them. Aryan and Nandita want to know what are the skills that one should possess in order to do well in this field, in the field that you're working on.
So if you're referring to just biomass, an agricultural waste, so we work. Ours is more of so I mean, of course, I mean there's a technical aspect to it, right? And it's very interdisciplinary. So this requires skill sets in mechanical engineering. It requires skill sets in control systems, right? And it also you also require, I mean, to do something like this, you also require business skills as well as design skills. And designs, these are really important to understand what is the functional requirements of the product that solve the needs of a customer, and is there a business in this, right? Will this product sell? So all these things come together. So, you know, I would say it's, if you're looking to start a business like this, you would need to have a working knowledge of all of these aspects down the line for you to get the entire picture. But of course, if you're focused on, say, just the engineering of it, then a lot of it is in a lot of it is with thermal systems engineering, combustion engineering, control system design. So a lot of work there.
I hope this answers your question, Aryan and Nandita. And thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for such an informative session. Our team is already receiving positive feedbacks about this session, and they're thrilled to know about this segment, especially given that India is more of a manufacturing sector and into the farming sector. So I would now like to present to you a small token of appreciation on behalf of our entire team of IEEE Bombay Section Students Congress.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure to interact with everyone today.
Can you please, Siddhant, can you please change the slide? Siddhant, Nandita, you guys are there?
Yeah, I'm here. 1 second.
Yeah, please change the slide. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you, Vidit sir. Thank you for your time. We are glad to have you here.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, sir. And now we have a very interesting and intriguing session, which is on autonomous vehicle. And we have with us Dr. Umar Zakir Abdul Hamid, and he has been working in the future mobility field since 2014. We are very thrilled to have him with us today. I now hand over this session to Dr. Umar Zakir Abdul Hamid for his session. Sir, please. Sir, you are on mute. Can you please unmute yourself?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. How's it going, everyone? Is okay? I hope everyone is good. So, it's 10 o'clock here, and as you can see, I just shift my head. I will show you my slide now. Yeah, I hope you are seeing my screen, right?
Yes, sir. Your screen is visible.
Okay, so first of all is that I would like to thank you to thank the organizer Anjali and Tatagat and Puja and everyone. So the aim of this presentation is mostly about autonomous vehicle as the future of mobility, and the session will be 1 hour, right? But I am thinking to share my slide around 30 minutes. Then we can have Q&A basically. And yes, and then after that, you in the audience can ask about basically, I don't know, future direction of career, this kind of things. Because I believe most of the audience are students. So yeah, maybe we can start now. So, what is future of mobility? And in the media, right, we are seeing a lot of discussion about how can I say this, autonomous vehicle, connected vehicles, but and even since 2010, basically, most of the discussions are touching about autonomous vehicle on the road since 2020, but apparently some of them or most of them are a hype. So what is exactly autonomous vehicle? So just a quick disclaimer is that this conversation or presentation is not representing any of my organization, but instead is my personal opinion. And a little bit about me is that I've been working in connected and autonomous vehicle 8 years in the back end, in the front end, and also in the customer facing business side. And I have worked in this topic in 5 countries: Malaysia, Singapore, Japan, Finland, and Sweden. And I have written publications on this topic, and I'm also currently the secretary for SAE Cooperative Driving Automation, which is defining the standards. One of the committee that is defining the standards for vehicle automation. And previously, my role is leading a team of 12 autonomous vehicle experts. And I've also worked as product owner, but now my role is lead of strategic planning with CEF, CEVT in Gothenburg. Well, it is owned by Geely, and Geely is it is affiliated under the group of Geely, and it is Geely owns the Volvo group. So I think you might have heard this group. And yeah, this is the presentation. No, my background. Why I am telling this is because to motivate the younger generations that nothing is impossible in this world. I came from Malaysia originally. So if I can do this, everyone can do it. So that's my point. And also, what is exactly autonomous vehicle? The motivation behind it is because we are on the brink of fourth industrial revolution. Actually, it is already started. And if you see last 10 years ago, maybe your parents are still using GSM, Nokia 3310, for example. But then nowadays they are using this smartphone and spreading the fake news online. I mean, my parents do that. But okay, that's another topic. But then this part of the fourth industrial revolutions are connected and autonomous vehicles, which means that connected and connected and autonomous vehicle is part of the bigger picture, which eventually will disrupt how we are living. And as you can see, now we also see Uber, for example, shared mobility, all of these are disrupting how we are live. And why this is important is because 65% of future jobs are not yet existing today, are non-existent. So this fourth industrial revolution will foresee the new type of technology that needs new skills. Even in the industry nowadays, it's really hard to get a job if you don't have, for example, any computer skills or maybe programming skills. Even mechanical engineering, sometimes you need to know the basic of programming, maybe using MATLAB, for example, this kind of thing. And connected and autonomous vehicle is part of a bigger and larger ecosystem. But that's what I am trying to highlight here. It is not just to make a vehicle moving from point A to point B, but how we are selling this, how we are disseminating the regulation to the public organization, and how we are going to do this safely and also cheaply. And the market value for this is 7 trillion by the year of 2050. This is the expectation, 7 trillion USD, yes. And again, connected and autonomous vehicle alone is not the end goal. It's not just, if I see some misconceptions sometimes when people think about autonomous vehicle, they say that I want to buy this autonomous vehicle, for example. But the big picture is not to make one autonomous vehicle driving along the human-driven vehicle. That's the expert trend. But the idea is that to create a connected, autonomous, shared, and electric mobility. So it is a shared vehicle but driverless. But again, prototype alone is not sufficient. We need to productize this properly in order to basically be benefited by the audience, public. So what is exactly the future mobility then, you might say? So it is autonomous, connected, electric, and shared. And in automotive, all of this is happening simultaneously, the growth, and all of these elements have the needed skills, different skills, skill set in order for students to work. I will basically tell in the next slide what is exactly all of these elements and how you can enter this field to work in this field, basically. So, so far so good, okay? So, autonomous vehicle itself means the vehicle automation process. And the idea is to remove the human driver in the future. But basically, there's like also confusion between the term. Some people call it autonomous, some call it automated, some call it self-driving and driverless vehicle. And basically, all of these terms have different connotation. Actually, some of them have same meaning, and we have written about this. What does it mean? But basically, an autonomous vehicle is an ability for vehicles to move in a defined area, defined map, or maybe and localize itself, and also replan the trajectory if, let's say, there is some hazard on the road. Okay, let's take a look here, for example. How does it work? So we have environmental module from the sensors, external sensors such as LiDAR, radar, camera, what else? Ultrasonic, no. LiDAR, radar, and camera is the most common one. And then they fuse this And basically, this information will be utilized by two main modules. The first one is perception and vision, and the second one is localization and mapping. Localization and mapping read the map about the environment. For example, to drive in Bombay, for example, or Delhi, or I don't know, Dhaka, wherever. So basically, it needs to know the map first, and then it needs to know where is its location in the created map, which is the localization positioning. And this positioning, as you can see here, is outputs the current vehicle states. For example, where am I in this room now? And I know where am I. I am on this chair. Okay. And then there is like also perception and vision. For example, to perceive and detect and track something that is not on the map previously. Okay, let's say you are in the room, right? And suddenly there is like your wife or your mother or your father coming into the room. You do not know that he is there, but then if you look at him, you will see like, okay, he's there. That's what perception is doing, like detection and tracking. And this detection and tracking will provide you with the information of the obstacle states. And then based on this information, our states and also the environment states, it will be utilized by guidance and navigation module. Inside there is like path planning, and then what else? Path tracking, for example, control. And also all of this information will be sent to the low level to actually help vehicle to actuate the desired actuation, and the feedback will be sent again. So this is how autonomous vehicle is working. And as you can see, it's a very big topic. It's not simple as like making vehicle to move from point A to point B. And